Yo, what's going on? Welcome to my directorial and critical analysis of my short film, The Knock. And of course, as we are going to explore my own critiques and my own opinions on the short film, what I went through and going through it, the overall script, which I have with me, as you can see right here, is my script for this short film. This was a really fun project to work on. I had a lot of fun on it, and ultimately, I just had a lot of fun creating the cinematography for this film. I absolutely adore using the darkness for this film. That was my whole idea, is that I wanted to create an element of surprise and also an element of suspense and ultimately a level of intrigue, because as you can see if you have watched the film before now, that nothing is actually shown when it comes to the threat of this film. So however, what we're going to be describing in today's video is basically what my whole approach is going into this short film. And of course, we will begin our overall critiques. Now, obviously, The Knock is a super important title because the whole synopsis of this film revolves around a knock at the door. So, of course, we will begin. This is my typical intro for all my productions with my production company, THD Productions, or That Horror Dude Productions, if you did want to know the full name. But as you can see, this is a typical intro that we go with. And of course, my pumpkin that I have tattooed on my arm is present at the start of every single one of my productions. It's there all the time. Of course, the ambience here was rain. I wanted to create a sort of atmosphere of, reading a book or just chilling out and relaxing when that lovely hit of the rain against the window is present. I mean, I think a lot of people really adore that sense of rain. I don't know if that's just me, but I absolutely adore. I'm just going to turn it up a little bit. I absolutely adore those days where you're just kind of chilling. For example, in my office with the rain hitting against the window. As you can see, the room, the slowly gets darker as the weather gets darker, and we are introduced here to my first shot of the film here. Now, I was really proud of this shot because, as you can see, there is no other light sources except for the clouds and somewhat light of the sky, and of course the color and brightness of the iPad and device that our character is using. Obviously, the character's name is James. I was really excited to see how this shot would look because, of course, as an independent and indie filmmaker and a solo filmmaker, I was really excited to see how this would turn out. I'm very proud of it. I gotta admit, I really like this shot. And of course, that sort of ambience here of only seeing our character's head with all the lights. These are probably my favorite shots here of just the light and brightness off the iPad. Easily, this is my favorite shot right here. As you can see, the level of directions of the lights and how it's bouncing off our character's face here, I absolutely adore it. I did want to add a little bit more to light. That's why I brought in the side on the side of the iPad, just the laptop on like a medium brightness on a MacBook, because I wanted to create a sort of ambience of all you can see is just our character. You can't see what's around him, so you have no idea what's there, and that creates a sense of ambience and creates a sense of suspense when things go down in this short film. Because in my opinion, I just think the sense and fear of the unknown is the scariest thing in film. The best example I can think is Skinamarink. I think that does an amazing job of it because you can't see what the threat is. That was a big inspiration for this short film right here, was Skinamarink. So as it goes on, of course, we get the phone call from the classmate. Now, of course, this phone call was really fun to make. Because I got the amazing help from Coraline Heck, which is a voice actor within the Walton Files series. If you haven't seen the Walton Files, I'm sure you've definitely seen it. But as you can see here,
Yo.
What's up, dude? Just checking if you got any of that homework done.
Coraline's voice acting is amazing. My own voice acting is not the greatest, but oh well, it's not my job. But I did my best, of course. I did some overview. As you can tell, it is very much dubbed over because I don't have a microphone attached onto my camera. And if you didn't know, I record all my short films on an iPhone. I don't have a physical camera. The only time I've ever used a physical camera for my short films was for Fradel County, in which I used this handheld camera from years and years ago to get that retro effect with added on filters and stuff. But with this here, you can kind of tell is the fact of the unknown, especially with the light as well. However, in my own opinion, I didn't really like the composition. Looking back on this shot right here, there is some critiques I have with this film that I wish I could have done better, but of course that's the point of this. But yeah, the voice acting I could have done a little bit better on it, but oh well, we'll move past it.
It's been killer, man.
I've not started the homework. No.
Ah, okay. How far are you into the project?
Yeah, no, I've started the project. No, I've started, I promise.
I was really happy with this shot, though. This shot specifically. Kind of creating a sense of, humor as well. Of like, oh, I have it done. He doesn't actually have it done. Can either create a
next
sense of
or
humor
two,
or a
yeah.
sense of like
Okay,
this
okay,
character is
perfect.
lazy.
Cheers.
You know, there's
Gotta
two
go.
ways of looking at it.
Right, right.
And of course, this is when stuff starts to go down a little bit. As you can hear now, as this scene slowly and slowly develops. And now. Here it is. There's the first knock. Now, this shot right here, I'm okay with this shot. However, I think it's a little bit pixelated. The one thing I do like about this shot is the whole shadow here that kind of is like kind of enhanced by the light of the iPad. But this shot right here, if you look closely, it's fairly pixelated, and was a little bit annoyed with the resolution of this shot right here. But we'll get past it for now. And of course, my main aspect of everything to do with horror that I make is the ambient noises, the music building up slowly. I did pitch some stuff down, for example, the knocks, continuous knocking. I made sure that it kind of pitched down in tone, and I wanted to make sure is something I do a lot of my short films is when it goes, the music builds and builds and builds, and as it builds, it completely cuts to just silence almost, and then it slowly builds up again to kind of give a sense of dread. Now, what I wanted to create here is, what does this light lead to? What actually is this light? Is it the hallway to the building? Is it just the rest of their house? However, you genuinely don't know. Again, this shot right here does have some pixelation issues, which I wasn't happy with. But again, in my opinion, I feel like the whole composition as well of not knowing, for example, you don't know what's over here. You can see a mirror is here, but you can't see what's over here. And then you hear the knock at the window, and the lights go out. I like that a lot. And then all of a sudden, you see just this gap in the window. Now, what this shot creates here is what is actually that shadow that covers there. Is it the entity that's there, or is it our character checking the window? And in my opinion, I did have multiple people say, what is it? Now, as you can see from this shot here, it kind of confirms that it is our character looking out the window, what that possibly could have been. But, again, the creation of ambience and suspense there is growing and growing and growing. And then my second favorite shot in this entire film is here. And I love this ending. This is obviously building to the climax of the film, as again, you cannot see anything here. As if we go back just a few seconds, you can tell, okay, the wardrobe is there, the mirror is a little bit dirty. You can see handprints on the mirror, however. Whose handprints are they? You don't know. And obviously from previous scenes, you can tell, okay, yes, the door is also here. However, as soon as I pick up the iPad, the shot completely darkens and you have no idea what's there anymore. Until eventually, you just slowly see the door creep open. And the light builds, and then all of a sudden it goes dark again. And then, the final knock happens. And the movie slowly comes to a close. In my opinion, this was probably one of my most, the most fun I've had working on a short film. Because specifically, the actual, like, having the script and stuff, the building of tension, the cinematography in this film, in my opinion, is much better than my first film, Friedel County. I absolutely adore this film. I love it so much. And I did get a lot of things saying of what actually happened at the end. You know, there's no ending and stuff like that. Which I can understand why people might be a little bit confused on that. I can understand this. I always wanted to do this, by the way. The whole... I love that. For me personally, I love when films do that, when it's kind of like, it kind of like almost tells the audience of you might be in trouble, you might be next. But anyway, my whole opinion on this film right here, I absolutely love it. When it comes to the ambience and stuff, it's what I wanted to build on. For me, the whole approach for this film specifically was to kind of increase the sense of dread, increase the sense of suspense, and specifically show that through the use of cinematography. In my opinion, these shots that I've developed in this short film are the best of anything I've ever done, and I just really, really love how I created that. The whole sense of, you know, light as well, I wanted to make sure my use of light and how I use that in films was developed, because in Friedel County, I think there's a lot of composition issues, which you can definitely notice. However, with this film being shot around 4 months after Friedel County, I've seen a little bit of improvement. However, one thing I'm happy about with Friedel County, it took a lot longer to shoot and film. I shot this film in roughly 30 minutes in my grandparents' bedroom. And on a rainy day in Ireland, which we get plenty of them. But of course, I just loved developing this short film. I loved scripting it. It took me around 3 days to script, then another day to plan the shots out, and obviously just wait for it to rain in Ireland, which didn't take long, of course. And of course, getting help from the likes of someone like Coraline Heck, who was so talented in their respective work and projects and stuff. So talented, and I'm so grateful for them to helping out with the project. It meant so much to me, and to do to the level of their ability, it is just so appreciated. And overall, I just love how this film turned out. I haven't submitted this to any film festivals at the moment because, quite frankly, it was too late for submissions. But I think this is probably my most underrated work. In my opinion, I think it's a little bit better than Fredo County. The only issue is, of course, is that runtime only being 5 minutes. However, I feel like if I was to develop this further, it could be way better than Fredo County. With a little bit of development, I could definitely turn this into a longer short film. However, I feel like the 5 minutes I got out of this was almost so short to where it's like wanting more. The viewer will want more, which is a good thing. And in my opinion, anyway. And the fact of, like, I've saw so many people say, "Oh, what was the ending?" That was my whole goal with this. I wanted the viewer interpretation to be high, because I think that's the scariest thing you can do, is imagining. Because the brain will probably make something 10 times scarier than what's actually perceived on screen. And I think that's the greatest bit of film, especially with horror, is using psychology to a filmmaker's advantage by using the audience's psychosis to almost develop a scarier threat than what actually might be intended. And I think that's what I've used here. And in my opinion, I think it worked really well. But of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below with everything. I really hope you did enjoy The Knock. If you have seen it already, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And overall, what were your critiques? I'd love to see your critiques as well, because personally, I'm always looking for development. So I'd really appreciate any sort of critiques or things I should be improving on. But of course, at the end of it all, that is my critical analysis on The Knock.